Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. Well, Cardano and multi-chain video today. I'm sitting down talking to Carlos RENE about the layer 2 solution they're building with DEGA. Carlos, very welcome onto the channel. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey there, Paul. Happy to be here.
So look, we'll jump straight into it. I suppose give the very high level who you are, and then we'll get into DEGA and everything that you're building there.
Happy to do so. So on my side, I've been doing computer science a little over 13 years now. I've been over 5 years in the blockchain industry, in which time I created my own software development studio. We've done everything from deploying new layer ones, side chains, DEXs, NFT marketplaces. And besides the work I've done with my studio, I've personally also worked over a year leading the sidechains program in IOHK for the Cardano ecosystem. Now, completely focused on DEGA, where we're providing blockchain gaming infrastructure as a service, and we're building it in a cross-chain ecosystem.
Okay, I'm very tempted to go off on a complete tangent here and ask you all about sidechains for Cardano and stuff you've done there, but maybe we'll do a follow-up session sometime to dig into that type of stuff. But just with DEGA, so what specifically, you're building a layer 2, but for anyone who hasn't heard of a layer 2, they might have just heard of a layer 1 being Ethereum or Cardano or Polkadot as a layer 1. But what is a layer 2 and where does it fit in?
Yeah, so basically layer 2 is one of the building blocks that you need to be able to scale, as I'm sure anybody out there that has used blockchain sometime has thought, whoa, these transaction fees are either too high or the transactions are too slow, right? So in engineering and computer software, we call that scaling, right? This is what happened with the internet. Like imagine right now, how many people are alive using the internet, right? All that computing and processing power to be able to meet the demand of everybody in the industry. That's what we call scaling, right? So layer 2s are one of the building blocks that you need to be able to scale an ecosystem. And essentially it works by creating like child blockchains, right? And we call them child blockchains and layer 2s, precisely because they are on top of an existing ecosystem, right? It could be Ethereum, it could be Cardano, it can be other systems, but essentially it's a way to be able to create more blockchains, because that's the only way you're going to be able to meet the demand of so many people coming into the industry.
Yeah, and like the way that layer 1s are generally built is if you want thousands of dApps to be built on the blockchain, then they can't all fit on the layer 1. At some point, it just gets too congested. So where does DEGA fit into it, and what is going to be your focus? Now, I know you're going to be cross-chain, so you're not just going to be a layer 2 for Cardano. Can you get into this? I suppose keep it high level on this one, and maybe we'll get deeper into it after that, but just how the layer 2 will work for multiple chains.
Yeah, happy to do so. So from a product perspective, basically, you know, as an end user or a consumer of our product, you can look at DEGA kind of like the AWS for blockchain gaming, right? So before we had AWS or Google Cloud or any cloud, if you wanted to set up an internet company, you had to build everything, right? Like you had to go in there and set up the servers, configure the network, configure the SQL database cluster, and you had to either be an expert yourself or work with an expert, right? That's the only way. There was no such concept of scaling, right? And then AWS comes along and says, well, you know what? I'll give you everything that you need, right? You need a server, just one click, pay for it, and you got a server. Oh, you need a website, one click, here's your web server ready to go for you to upload your HTML or whatever type of code you were using. So basically that's what we're doing, right? Like we don't want gaming. It's not only that we don't want, like it's not even feasible to be able to think that gaming studios are going to come and they're all going to become blockchain experts, right? So the way that we are building DEGA is to be able to provision layer 2s, white label NFT marketplaces, white label minters, white label DEXs, everything pre-built, ready to go, and that they can use through an API that a 17-year-old high school kid that programs JavaScript can use, right? No need to go into a learning curve about, on-chain and off-chain data, learning either Solidity or Plutus or any of these things. They're just pre-built building blocks that they can access and use so they can focus on their game, right? Their game, their metaverse application, or whatever it is that they want to build.
Nice. So when someone uses DEGA, then do they have to pick the specific chain that they want to use, or could they use multiple chains? Would they need to have multiple versions of DEGA then, or could it be one DEGA sidechain to interact with all? Say, I seen you have Cardano, Polkadot. I'm not sure which other ones, but you can get into them there.
Sure. That's a good question in the sense that there's kind of like different needs and different levels, right? Somebody might say, well, I think that my system isn't going to be used that much. There's only going to be, a few hundred of transactions every week, right? Like, because for some reason their system, it was designed that way. So in that case, you can build on top of an existing system. You were alluding to, for example, the layer 2 that we announced in partnership with Cornucopias Games. So we're building a layer 2 with them, specialized for gaming on the Cardano ecosystem. So if somebody says, well, I'm happy to use that layer 2 and just work with the DEGA components already there, they can do that. But some other games will come and say, well, you know what? I know that I have so much demand, so many users, that I'm going to need my own infrastructure, right? So in that case, they can deploy their own layer 2 if they want to, right? And DEGA just provides all of the components that we've discussed, like marketplaces, taxes, etc., already pre-compiled and deployed to that new layer 2 that they would be using. And it would work in the same way that any white label system works, right? Like, infrastructure platform as a service, or like software as a service. But the essence is that they, whatever they need, be it working on an existing system or working on a new one, they can deploy the resources and access it through a very simple API.
Okay, and yeah, Cornucopias, the Kopi Cafe that you were on with Rob and Josh, was the first place that I heard about what you guys were doing. And I had been wondering how Cornucopias was going to work it, because when you look at the potential scale and the number of users that they could have, the Cardano layer 1 isn't going to be feasible for that many saves, or when you really get down to gameplay, there's going to be a lot of transactions needed for putting that on chain. So with the likes of Cornucopias, if they wanted to expand to other chains, so they're going to be primarily Cardano for now, as far as I know, and maybe they'll look at another chain down the line. So could they use the same instance of DEGA as the layer 2 and launch a front end on Polkadot or something else then as well? Now,
yeah,
for anyone that might think that Cornucopias is going there, this is me just speaking off the top of my head. They've never mentioned anything like this yet, but I'm just wondering about DEGA and how it can be used.
Yeah, that's a good point, which is something I was going to clarify as well. I can never speak on behalf of any of our partners, right? But what I can tell you is that, yes, we will be providing the same modules and the same API that can be used across the board, right? So whether, for example, right now we're working with another partner in Stealth to do a layer 2 on top of Ethereum, and it'll work the same way, right? The same API, the same modules, the same infrastructure behind the scenes. So for somebody that wants to do multi-chain deployments, yeah, our API and our infrastructure will be there across the board, so they can work with the exact same tools on all of the different ecosystems, right? Whether they choose to do so or not, well, that'll be entirely up to each partner or client working with our technology.
Okay, yeah, I think as crypto grows more and more over the next few years, it's going to be all about the front end UI. People are going to care less about the blockchain that they're actually using underneath, and it's all going to be about the UI to make it as simple as possible. Obviously, there will still be people who care what chain they're on, but the newer people that will come in, they just want to get involved and play the game. At the start anyway, they won't care what chain is holding that game. So the simpler we can make that, and the more chains that it can be played on, the better. The more users that can come in and get access then. So how does it interact with the layer 1 then? So we'll stick with Cornucopias. As you said, we're not saying anything specific about them, but just because I know that project, people watching this are going to be familiar with it. But how would a project like Cornucopias interact with DEGA and Cardano? So where would the connection be? If the transactions are happening on DEGA, is that then rolled up to Cardano, or how is it secured?
Yeah, so generally speaking, layer 2s, as we were saying, the definition that makes them a layer 2 is the fact that they rely on the layer 1 for security, right? So the particular type of layer 2 that we're working on, it's based on what's called zero knowledge proof. This type of technology, cryptographic technology, allows you to create a mathematical proof that compresses several transactions into one single piece of data that can be validated, right? So once you have that that one transaction, right, that compresses the interactions of many transactions, then you post that to the layer one. Then the layer one says and verifies that that proof works correctly, and that essentially is what guarantees the security, right? Otherwise, if you don't do that, then your layer two is essentially another blockchain, right? And you're practically, you know, it's like sidechains. That's the difference between a layer two and a sidechain. A layer two has its own security. I mean, a sidechain has its own security model, and a layer two inherits it from the layer one by posting that proof, right? There are many types of layer twos. Not all of them work with zero knowledge proofs, but those are the ones that are becoming kind of like the path that the industry is choosing to go to because of their capability to reduce that compression and simplify the operation, right? Because at the end of the day, you reduce everything to pure mathematics, and pure math is a way simpler mechanism than having to account for things like consensus algorithms, right? So essentially, that's the way that the layer twos are secured. And in terms of interaction, we're certainly going to be integrating modules that allow you to go from the mainnet to the layer two back and forth through our API. Of course, somebody that comes to our system and says, well, you know, I already have my own system for the mainnet. Okay, then you can just use your own system for the Cardano mainnet and then use our API for the layer two, right? If that's something that you wanted to do.
Okay, so they could still have NFTs and everything like that over on Cardano, but the interaction, the saves that happened on potentially a minute by minute basis or per second, that happens on DEGA. Is there, it was good clarification actually on sidechains and layer twos too. So just on that, will you have your own validator set, or does the layer two need its own validators, or how does that work? Like Cardano, we have ISPOs, and layer twos, do they have that, something similar?
Yeah, so there's always the concept of a validator, right? A validator is like a block producer. That is a concept that is pervasive across all the types of blockchains that you have, everything from proof of work blockchains like Bitcoin, right? You have your full node. Everything has a validator, right? That is essentially a node that says this is a valid block in this blockchain's protocol, right? So that concept exists. Most of the L2s right now, I think actually all of them are completely centralized, right? At least I haven't heard of anybody that's been able to decentralize the prover. So the prover is a single entity, but the difference is, again, because you're posting that mathematical proof, right? The zero knowledge proof to the layer one, that is what guarantees for everybody else that what you're doing is correct, right? And there's also the concept of doing an exit from the layer two. Right. So let's say that I'm running a layer two, right? And then you say, well, you know, Carlos, your system is down. I can't use it. Like, you know, I need access to my assets, right? Then you can post a transaction that's approved to the layer one. And if I don't reply with a counter proof, like saying that asset is no longer yours, for example, that you transferred it to me, then you can just, the mainnet will give it back to you, right? So it'll make sure that what I'm doing at the layer two is completely, let's say, secure, right? Valid in that sense. Because if I don't post that proof, then the layer one will simply, you know, punish me in that sense, or free up the asset for you to access it again. That's how generally they work in that sense. There are a lot of companies or groups right now trying to research the capabilities to decentralize the validator at the layer two. It is absolutely possible and feasible. There's yet to be, let's say, like a standardized or battle-tested model for that. I have a few ideas that I will be sharing over the course of the coming months with you know, the industry as a whole to be able to do that. But it is something that, for the moment, it's not there, right? So the good thing about it, again, is that you always have the reliability of the layer one, which is the one that secures and make sure that what you're doing at the layer two is not inappropriate.
Okay, yeah, that's why I hear a lot of really good things about rollups, and the main negative seems to be the centralization aspect of it. But we've seen some crazy money raised by different companies that are trying to build and research rollups over the last 2 years, even through a bear market. There's massive money being raised for it. So the industry definitely is trying to push that direction as being the future of scalability for layer 2s. And on the validators or running nodes, would the likes of me be able to come in and run a node within DEGA, or will that be yourselves just running the nodes to start, or have you got that far yet?
Yeah, so there would be a few scenarios there, right? Like, for example, if you told me, you know, I want to have my own layer 2, right? And then that's a very different relationship that if you said, well, I want to work with the layer 2s that you already have deployed, right? Like I was saying, right, we already have one underway with Cornucopia's games. Other companies are welcome to join us in that adventure. But if you said, no, I need my own layer 2, then in that case, you can self-host that as well. Or you can say, I want my L2 and I want you to host it, Carlos, because I want to focus on my game. I don't have any time to be running validators. So you can pick and choose at what point you want to be involved with this, right? Just like how you would run right now an email service, right? Like you can either just be a client of an email service, right? You can just use Gmail, or you can set up your own server hosted by a cloud system, or you could host your own in your own infrastructure, right? Like it's a protocol, right? That's the beauty about having open, decentralized protocols, right? You can do literally whatever you want, right? Just like how you can right now either use Cardano, you can host a node of Cardano in some cloud, or you can run it in your house if you want to, right? You can choose at what point you want to be involved with the system. You could even fork it, right? And create your own Cardano-based mainnet if you wanted to. So we're going to provide the same freedom as well at every level of the components that we build. We're not building closed systems or closed source software.
Okay, so with that, then would it be, it's up to, say, Cornucopias to run the servers for their own block validators for their layer 2, or if you were running it, you would be the ones running it? Would it be you run one block producer, or would you set up multiple ones yourselves? Is that maybe that's not needed in the scenario?
Yeah, so like I was saying, right now, all the layer 2 provers are still run, you know, in a centralized way, and you rely on the mainnet for protection, right? The mainnet is the one that guarantees that even though there's a single prover, you do not misbehave, right? So just to clarify that for anybody out there getting scared about layer 2s being centralized, right? You always have the protection of the layer 1, which is as secure as you can get in that sense. But with them, there's still some things to be defined. I can't talk about the details that we haven't published together in terms of how that's going to work. What I can tell you is that we're working together to make sure that the technology serves the purpose of the Web3 gaming industry, right? And DEGA is the one working at the protocol levels and in tandem with them to do the integration for their system. What features those will be, that is still something that we are, let's say, in a feedback loop with them right now.
Okay, and what stage is the project at the minute? So you said you're working on the one with Cornucopias. Have you already completed the core software or service, I suppose, yourselves, and it's just the customization for projects that come in now, or where are you yourselves in terms of development?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of it is done already. I'd say like 85% of the API features that we wanted to deploy for the first version are done. Most of the work that we still have is around the security aspects of it, reliability, making sure that we get audits, penetration testing for security purposes. But most of the feature set, it's pretty much done. The API, we've showcased it in private to Cornucopias and some other partners that we're working with as well. So that's why we're working together, right? In the sense that we literally just showed it to them. Guys, this is how it works. This is how you can use it. And it involves features like, for example, gasless transactions, which means that you can either pay the gas yourself for your users, or you can charge them in some other way. You could even charge them in fiat if you wanted to. And other features like having the white label marketplace ready to go, minters, dynamic NFTs, NFTs based on locking assets and having rules. Like, for example, if you want this NFT, you got to lock X amount of tokens in it, right? And you have to destroy the NFT to unlock it. And a whole bunch of stuff like that, a whole bunch of feature sets that are basically allowing them to just pick and choose what they want to do versus having to build out all of the blockchain protocols themselves.
Okay, and just before we move off that, actually, with the NFTs that you're talking about there, would they be running on the layer ones or on the DEGA blockchain?
So the layer two has its own NFTs there, right? That you can just create and mint there, right? And then there are certain mechanisms that allow the layer one and the layer two to communicate back and forth, right? Like, for example, right now, if you go to the most popular layer two is like CK Sync or Arbitrum on the Ethereum side of things. You can take mainnet assets to the layer two, and there's also some assets that are native to the layer two, right? That you can move into back and forth with the layer one as well. So it's kind of like, like this hierarchy, right, between the layer one and the layer two, where the layer two allows for additional processing. The layer one provides the security and decentralization, but they are interchangeable between them, right? If they weren't, then it would be like having another blockchain, right? Like if I just which we do, right? We bridge different blockchains, but they have different security models in that case. But the layer two concept properly done right means that they are interconnected, they form part of the same ecosystem. It's just that they are separating concerns. One is focusing on decentralization and security, and the other one is focusing more on performance.
Okay, and getting on then to, there will be a token for DEGA. What will the token be used for? And then we'll talk about you running, I think, the first multi-chain ISPO, but just on the token first, what is it, or what part will it play?
So basically the DEGA token is going to be used as fuel for the economy of this multi-layer two setup, right? So you can have, just like how ADA works in Cardano mainnet or Ethereum works on the Ethereum mainnet, the token is used for the transaction fees. And also the difference that we are applying here is that we're also gathering to the DEGA token the fees of the modules that we're building, right? So if you're using the DEGA NFT marketplace, right, the white label product, that has a fee, right? Just like OpenSea has a fee, right? And then all of those fees are going to accrue to the DEGA token. They work essentially in the same way that Ethereum gas fees work, which is that they burn the gas fee, the base fee, and we'll be doing that, but not just for the block transaction fees, but for the fees that we gain across all of the modules that we're building, right? So another example can be like if you use certain DEXs, right? They have a fee for the DEX. So that fee will go to buy and burn DEGA. And then if you do an NFT sale in our marketplace, that fee will go to buy and burn DEGA. And if you use the minter, which has another fee, that fee will also go to buy and burn DEGA. So that creates deflationary pressure similar to the one that Ethereum does with their burning mechanism, but we do it across the entire spectrum of modules that we provide in our ecosystem.
Okay, so if DEGA builds out for multiple different partners, we could see it being fairly deflationary over time. There could be a lot being burned once it all scales up and there's a lot more users on it. And we mentioned the multi-chain ISPO. So from what I've seen so far, an ISPO is something that I've only really seen on Cardano so far, but you're looking to run it across multiple blockchains. So how is that looking? It started out on Cardano now, and you're going to be moving out to other chains then.
Yeah, so basically, as you pointed out, right, it's so funny because in Cardano, ISPO is just super standard, super common. Everybody knows what it is. And then outside of Cardano, literally nobody knows what that is. Like they don't even know what the term means. So, and it's a great model, right? It's a super useful model in terms of doing a fair launch, allowing a lot of people to be a part of your project. It kind of eliminates that let's say, do or die mentality that we've had with several forms of token launches, right? Like, for example, many projects, as you know, they either kill it on their first day or they die, right? Like if you don't sell out on your first day, you're dead. So the ISPO kind of removes that and says, no, we're going to be working for several months. We're going to be showcasing to you who we're partnering with, what type of product we're building. You have time to ask questions. And now you can decide whether to stake or not in the stake pool, right? So we think that it's such a great innovative idea that was created in the Cardano ecosystem that other ecosystems should also benefit from that, right? So we're already in conversation with certain key players on the Polkadot ecosystem, on the Polygon ecosystem, and on the Ethereum ecosystem, we will be revealing in the coming weeks to be able to bring this innovation to their systems, right? In some of them, it'll work natively, like Polkadot's proof of stake is very similar to Cardano's in that sense, right? That you have delegation and you have validators and you have fees. So it can work almost the same. There's some tweaks, but it works almost the same. You can't do that on Ethereum, for example, or on Polygon. So there we've had to build a layer of smart contracts on top of that. But essentially the concept will always be, you can delegate and your core principal capital is safe. Nobody can touch that. And then the new project gets just the rewards, right, from the delegation. And they in turn issue a token, for doing delegation to their stake pools. So it's the same concept, but on other ecosystems now.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting model and leaves it a lot safer for investors who are getting involved in that you're not putting all of your initial capital into it or anything like that. And I suppose Cardano is really set up for that when you can keep your ADA in your own wallet and you delegate. You are giving up your staking rewards, but not your own ADA. I can see how it works on Polygon. I'm familiar with, or not Polygon, on Polkadot. I'm familiar with how it works there, and that you can set it up that your staking rewards are either compounded or you can set it up to go to another address. So presumably something around that. I'd be interested to see how it works on Ethereum and Polygon. And I know there you essentially give up custody, but it's good to see the model spreading out because it is an innovative way for projects to raise funds and not be straight out asking people to dig into their wallets right now and give out funds. I did see you have NFTs as well. How or where do the NFTs play into this? Are they pre-mint NFTs or something like that?
Yeah, it's a pre-mint pass, right? And there was a little bit of confusion there because I know some of our colleagues do the pre-mint pass directly on chain, which in my opinion kind of like beats the purpose because you're spending a lot on that. But in our case, the pre-mint pass is just basically stored right now with your Telegram account, right? We're also going to be integrating this with Discord, WhatsApp, so that anybody can access it. And perhaps I'll take a small step back there in the sense that why are we doing things with, with chat applications? And the thing is, for DEGA, our focus is absolutely to bring this to mass adoption, right? We want everybody in the world to be able to access the power of Web3. And that's why we're enabling all of the features that we're building through a chat-based interface, right? And this will apply for everything, right? Not only for the consumer side of things, but also the building parts of things, right? Imagine a creator being able to deploy their own digital store with their own NFT sales, all from a chatbot, right? Without needing to go into learning new tooling. So that's why we are very chat oriented, because it's the one thing that every human that has internet has a chat, one or another, right? It's either Telegram, WhatsApp, or Discord, or something else. So that's why we're focusing on that. And then having said that, we're already testing those products out, right? And there are a few things that we need to tweak here and there, but essentially it's a very simple process. You just tell it, hey, I want to buy pre-mint pass, then it just gives you an address, you pay there, and it confirms that you have it, right? Right now, our NFT pre-mint pass already gives you a bonus in the ISPO, right? So the DEGA stake pool is up and running, and if you have one of those NFTs, then you get a 5% bonus on your DEGA token rewards. In the future, once we do the actual mint, the NFTs will be used for gameplay that we're developing in our ecosystem and with our partners. And they will also have features that will be tied to the DEGA protocol itself. To give you an example, right? For coordinating all of these layer 2s across Cardano, Ethereum, Polkadot, and other systems, you need some metadata, right? As you could probably imagine, to make them act like a single cohesive system, you need some extra metadata that's going to be in what most people call the layer 0. So the DEGA protocol is going to live there, and the way that we're going to decentralize it is, or like everybody else, with validators and using proof of stake. And then when you do that proof of stake, the DEGA NFTs, based on their rarity, will give you a boost in the yield that you're getting as a validator, right? So for everybody out there that wants to get ready, get set up for that time to come, basically the more NFTs you have, the higher probability you get of getting one of these high yield DEGA boost NFTs.
Okay, I might have to check that out and pick up an NFT myself to be able to run a validator when the time comes. But will ye also run a token sale, or will it all be through the ISPO? Or will there be a sale later? For some people do prefer to just come in and buy at a sale rather than an ISPO, but will there be both options?
Yeah, right now we're doing for, open for the ecosystem, the ISPO. We do have a private token sale running, but as you know, due to regulatory reasons, the details of a private sale cannot be discussed publicly. But for people that are angel investors or institutional investors, they may reach out to us if they're interested in the private sale. And in the community, when we do TGE, obviously in the exchanges where we're going to be listing, there's going to be properly defined liquidity there so that they can access the DEGA token once we do that TGE. At the current time, if you want to support us, you can do so via the ISPOs, which again are coming to multiple ecosystems, already running on Cardano, soon to be running on Polkadot, and then after that, you can wait for it in Polygon and Ethereum.
Okay, great. I think that answers most of the questions I have for now. We will do a catch up in another while, but anything we've missed on here that would be good to put out, or anything we haven't touched on?
Yeah. So as you know, you've noted everything about us runs around games, right? And I get often asked the question, well, why are you guys doing gaming, right? Why not finance, right? Or something else? So there's very clear-cut reasons for that. Number one, gamers are digitally native, right? We don't have to preach to them that something digital has value. So that's one of the key things. The second one is because we see that everything is going to be gamified in the future, right? Duolingo is a great example of gamified education, and there's other projects following suit after they're in their footsteps. And a whole bunch of other things are going to get gamified. Healthcare, your work, ClickUp does a great job as well as for gamification and keeping you engaged. So we saw that as something that we have to practice as well. So right now in DEGA, what you can do besides taking part in the ISPO is create your own tribe, right? This is what other people call guilds in their ecosystems. So we chose the word tribe because it's more than just about engaging in the game and having fun, right? It's about connecting with people with whom you share values and a vision, right, for what you want to see in the world. And certainly it's also about having fun in the game, but we invite everybody to either join a tribe or create your own tribe and define it and set up your own vision for the world so that you can connect with other people that can support you make that vision a reality. As of now, we have 12 tribes already in the DEGA ecosystem, and they're going to be competing for some DEGA token rewards in several games as well. So an open invite to anybody that wants to join the ecosystem there.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll put all the links down below to your site, to your socials as well for anyone who wants to dive deeper. And I do think gaming is a really good focus. I think that still is a path to onboard millions into crypto because there's a whole generation there has grown up playing games, been used to being in games and buying in-game assets, and they're used to essentially how crypto could work for them. It's to start onboarding them and, to me, use games to teach people how crypto can come in and help, how you can have your aftermarkets, how your in-game assets can be NFTs and a lot more. But it's a really good path to be on. So thanks very much for your time. I do appreciate it. I always love these kind of ones to learn a bit more myself. Hopefully people watching have. Please do share it out. Give the video a like. Comment questions below. I can pass them on, or maybe we'll do a follow-up one with any questions that are there. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, Carlos.
Thank you, Paul. See you.